Hi, this is Brian Kim. I'm going to share with you case number 238 in the Best Way to Do Cataract Surgery series. And the title of this series is not to suggest this is the best way, but to get you to think about your technique critically so that you can hone and refine your technique so that you can provide the very best for your patient. So this is a big pupil soft lens. And you're going to see a beautiful illustration of double chop and cross chop and how I don't have to place the chopper all the way out to the posterior capsule. People are really scared about the technique because they think, oh, I have to go to posterior capsule and I might hit it with the chopper. Well, that's not really the case at all. And this is really a beautiful example of that. You're going to see the double golden ring sign, which is essentially a hydrodelineation ring separating the epinucleus and endonucleus. But this goes to show that the epinucleus has many concentric lamellar fibers. You can actually perform hydrodelineation at various levels within the lens. So using a cotton tip to steady the eye, and I use a corneal marker which will help me to center and size the rexus. You can see this is a really large pupil, and this is why I'm showing this case is just a beautiful illustration of the lens disassembly technique. I make a paracentesis incision first on the right side and then the left side, making sure I'm parallel to iris plane, which creates a nice corneal shelf, which will allow me to achieve a self-sealing incision. This is intracameral epinephrine, and then some dispersive viscoelastic to coat the corneal endothelium and flatten the anterior capsule. You can see again how huge this pupil is. I'm using the cannula to control the eye by twisting the cannula within the incision using an Orlock technique. I make my triplanar corneal incision. I make a vertical groove, place the blade into the deep part of the groove, tunnel, and then I enter. And these are my sharp tip microforceps. I puncture the center, pull down towards me. Grabbing the right side of the tear, I go around circumferentially, grabbing and re-grabbing and trying to align my rexus to the corneal mark that I made previously. You can see with this micro rexus forceps, I have excellent control of the rexus throughout the entire case. I like to use a cannula as well in my cases to control the eye in case the eye turns in an unusual way. And I like to use a cannula because it's a passive way to hold the eye rather than grabbing it with forceps. Putting some dispersive viscoelastic on the cornea to coat it. In this way, my technician doesn't have to keep wetting the eye. And this is the capsule fornix hydrodissection technique. I place a cannula under the rexus edge contra-incisionally, point the tip down, and I get this beautiful, beautiful wave. And actually, if I think about it, this might be a hydrodissection wave, but it's hard to tell. This is such a big pupil. It's probably a hydrodissection wave. The point of the matter is I'm going to do another hydrodelineation wave right here. Go ahead and do another wave. And now I essentially have a double golden ring sign. The first ring is the hydrodissection, and then the second ring is the hydrodelineation. And then I hook the lens begins to spin pretty easily there. Because I've coated the cornea, I don't want to irrigate it. So I lift the incision with the chopper, go in with irrigation off to minimize Descemet's trauma. And you're going to see, because I performed the hydrodelineation, how easy this is. It's a soft lens, remember. Place the chopper leading it out. Between that hydrodelineation ring, turn the phaco tip vertically sub-incisionally, cut the lens. It cuts like butter. I place the chopper around the right heminucleus, hooking the peripheral lens, pulling it centrally toward the phaco tip, and cutting that right heminucleus like butter. Hooking that first quadrant with the chopper, crushing it, and then emulsifying the lens piece, doing the same thing for the second quadrant. Turning the second heminucleus in front of me, performing another cross-chop maneuver, and then pulling each piece up separately, very easily without any trouble, and then removing the soft epinucleus. Such an easy and efficient way to disassemble a soft lens. So I take the chopper out, push BSS in, take the phaco tip out, and I go in with the INA handpiece. I start sub-incisionally, removing the cortex from anterior to posteriorly. And because it did a nice job in hydrodissecting, you can see the cortical material comes out rather easily here. I'm polishing the posterior capsule and polishing underneath the rexus edge, under the cortex mode, controlling with my foot pedal, but then I go ahead and switch to polish mode, and I'm able to polish the posterior capsule some more, as well as underneath the rexus. I pulse BSS into the subincisional capsule fornix. You can see a really nice clean bag in this case. Turn irrigation off and then push cohesive viscoelastic to fill the bag. And then using the sweeper to sweep under the rexus edge, first on the left side and then the right side, paying attention to sweep in the subincisional area, because this is the area that's received the least amount of attention with regards to lens epithelial cell polishing. Burp the incision, and I'm going in with the Li61AO lens. And then I'm going to push some more cohesive viscoelastic to fill the bag. And then go ahead and deliver the lens. This is a plunger style injector. As the leading haptic goes into the bag, it swings to the right, but then as the optic comes out, it's going to swing back to the left. So you don't have to worry about rotating the barrel. Just like that. Great. So now the leading haptic's in the bag, the optic is in the bag, and then you want to, again, release the plunger and then push it again. And that helps to engage the trailing haptic so that it bends and folds, and then you're able to pop it into the bag whenever you can. Sometimes it doesn't go into the bag, but that's easy. You can use a high-end handpiece to just push the trailing haptic into the bag. So I lift the optic, tilt it, and get underneath the optic and remove the viscoelastic from within the bag, and then polish under the rexus edge. And then I'll switch to visco mode, remove all the viscoelastic from the anterior chamber, and then I'll hydrate my incision. So again, this is a patient with a double golden ring, and the double golden ring in this case was because the pupil is so large that even with the hydrodissection wave, it caused a nice ring. And then I performed the traditional hydrodelineation wave, and it caused a smaller ring. So I had a double golden ring. But the nice thing about hydrodelineation, even though I don't do it all the time, because I know where my instruments are relative to the epinucleus and endonucleus, I don't routinely hydrodelineate. But when you see me placing the chopper, I'm always placing it where I need to, because as you could tell, I always am able to disassemble the endonucleus performing double chop and cross chop, and typically I have an epinuclear shell with my cases. And so even though I don't hydrodelineate, I'm able to disassemble only the endonucleus and maintain the epinucleus in place. However, it's much easier if you're learning just to go ahead and do the hydrodelineation and then place the chopper within the hydrodelineation ring. By doing it this way, you don't have to place the chopper all the way out to the equator, to the posterior capsule. People get real nervous about that. If you place it within the hydrodelineation ring, you have plenty of cushion. The chopper is not at all anywhere near the posterior capsule. You have a nice cushion of epinucleus. You're able to effectively disassemble the lens. Why? Because the lens is so soft. You can turn the phaco tip vertically, subincisionally, and cut through that epinucleus very easily. And then you're at the same horizontal plane of the densest part of the endonucleus. Go ahead and bring the instruments together, and you're essentially cheese wiring through the lens material, cutting the lens, performing the same maneuver with the cross-chop maneuver, placing the chopper around the equator and pulling it centrally toward the phaco tip and bisecting the right heminucleus, and then performing successive cross-chop maneuvers. In this case, the endonucleus came out so easily and again, very soft. No one should struggle with dealing with soft lenses. Do not try to sculpt soft lenses. That is the biggest mistake, because you're going to end up with a lens that's stuck in the bag, and you're going to try to go after it with vacuum, and then you're going to cause a posterior capsule rupture. It is the single least smart way to disassemble a soft lens. If you're going to disassemble a soft lens, please consider the double chop and cross chop technique. Of course, yeah, you can prolapse the lens out of the bag, but there's really no skill in doing that, and you don't want to bring the lens up into the anterior chamber and get it close to the corneal endothelium. And so this is my example of the double golden ring sign and a big pupil in a soft lens. So I hope this was helpful to you, and I thank you for your attention.